Ready to get the inside scoop on equity funding? Tune into TDJ Equity Funding Insiders Podcast for an in-depth look at what it takes to access financial capital and maximize your investments. Hear from experienced professionals, including bankers, underwriters, loan officers, and industry experts as they share their unfiltered stories and valuable lessons on securing funds.
Welcome, dear listeners, to another exciting episode of the TDJ Equity Funded Insiders Podcast, your go-to source for insights into the world of financing, lending, and everything in between. I'm your host, Jacqueline Jackson, and joining me today is legal luminary with a wealth of expertise in business, commercial, and real estate law. This is one of 3 podcast episodes that we will be speaking about funding and how attorney plays a part in getting funding. This episode is about partnerships. We are thrilled to have our esteemed Mickey Fox, that's a local attorney, to co-host with us today. Mickey has a stellar reputation specializing in business, commercial, and real estate matters. His intensive experience also compasses corporate and business consulting, as well as business construction and real estate litigations at both the state and federal level. So without further ado, let's welcome Mickey Fox to our show today. Thank you for joining us.
Jackie, I'm still stuck on luminary. That was awesome. I'm just absolutely excited to be here. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope I can help educate folks as to some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. You know, before you even get to the point of meeting you, or even through the process. I've been practicing for about 20 years now, and it's amazing how little folks really know about what's going on. And if I can help everybody out and make it a little easier, that's my goal.
Okay, and that's what we're having this show is mainly about today, guys, is that we have found as being loan brokers that there is a part where your attorney needs to play. And it doesn't really matter the amount of money as much as it is that you should have them in place, whether it's $100,000 or $1,000,000. We have, $1 million. Sorry about that. We've actually found out that that is really important to have the correct type of contracts, because if they're not correct, underwriter is not accepting them. That's the thing that we're finding out, which is either your deal is going to die or it's going to take extra months to get it done. So we have brought Mickey in as an attorney to actually give you educational knowledge, right?
Yeah, that's
We're
right.
giving educational knowledge of what you should do as far as a partnership and for as what is needed on the lending side. So him and I are going to be talking. He's from the legal side. I'm talking from the side as being a loan broker, or what we see and what we deal with when we actually deal with attorney with our clients. So we're going to start off today with getting an understanding of partnerships. So if you don't mind, talk about the different types of partnerships.
Okay, first off, this is just for education. Right. Every fact, every situation makes things work a little differently. So please, if you get a question, don't assume I know what I'm talking about. Go talk to your attorney. Generally, anybody gets in business with somebody else, they've got a partnership. You don't have to have a document written up to have a partnership,
okay,
but you should probably have one, because you know when you start the deal, everybody thinks they know what they're agreeing to. And then when the big money comes on the table, you find out nobody knows.
It's a different story.
So you have various types of entities that can be out there in the world. You've got just regular partnerships. You've got sole proprietorships. You've got limited liability companies. You've got general partnerships, limited partnerships. You've got corporations of all kinds. And each one really does a different kind of job. So it really depends on what your business is, what your investors are doing, whether you have investors or not, and that sort of thing, as to what kind of entity you need.
Okay, which is very important. And on our side of it, that entity has to be legally set up right. So you can't be going online and Google and download legal documents and turn them into us for you to satisfy the requirement for a loan. That's why we brought him on. So it's important to have those documents and the right ones that's legally done. Am I correct? We need to have them. So what that looks like when we say legally done?
Well, generally, in order to do business in the state of Connecticut or in the state of Texas, I'm sorry, I also have a license in Connecticut. To do business in the state of Connecticut or Texas, boy, I did it again. See, before the show, they're not telling you, but Jackie was doing all the flub ups, and now here I am. She just pushed it off on me.
Right, it's your turn.
But in order to do business, you need to file with the Secretary of State. You have to do that. The law requires that you do that. That way people can look you up online, figure out who you are, who to mail all the hate mail to, or where to mail it at, and that sort of thing. But that's not everything you need in order to get all the protections and the other benefits of having an LLC or a corporation. There's some paperwork that needs to go on in the background. So we start first with just the idea of the agreement.
Okay.
So even if you're a sole proprietorship and you want to have an LLC, you need to have a document that sets out what your liabilities are, what your limitations on those liabilities are, and what amounts you want to contribute in capital to your company or whatever. When you set up an entity, you say, I'm going to put some money into that entity, and then that's all y'all got to collect from.
Okay.
All right. You can't come back and hit me personally. You can't have my house. You can't have my truck, that kind of stuff. So you want to have that agreement in place. In the way I talk about agreements with people, it's pretty simple. That agreement's a discussion you have either with yourself or with your partners to talk about what everybody expects of everybody else. That agreement's not there for when things are going good, because when the money's rolling in, ain't nobody cares.
Nobody cares. They haven't even read it. To be honest. So let's go, keep going.
And that's the absolute truth. But if you have a good discussion beforehand, then when things get rough, you've got something you can fall back on. You can say, okay, here's what we agreed we were going to do if this happens, or here's what we agreed we were going to do if that happens. And so you've got that agreement to fall back on. The way I tell people it's like this, it's kind of like a prenuptial agreement. You're going to get into a business marriage with that person, and if something happens, that prenuptial agreement might save you from divorce. Business divorces are as bad, if not worse, than regular divorces. And I will tell you, that business becomes your child.
Right.
And you want to keep your child, right? And you want custody. And you don't want, visitation schedules and things like that in your business. So you can set all of that out in that first document. With that, you're going to need a certificate of formation from the Secretary of State or a certificate of incorporation. It depends on what you're doing. That's the first legal document that every bank's going to ask for.
Exactly.
Right, that notice that you've actually filed with the Secretary of State, and that's going to carry things like who your agent for service is. It's going to carry, what the name of the company is, the business address, maybe the mailing address, that kind of stuff. The second thing the bank's going to want is a copy of your business document, your operating agreement, or your corporate agreement.
And I want to say on that how important that is. It's amazing how many businesses come to us to set up as LLCs or incorporate, and they do not have an operating agreement. And guys, I tell people, and you're gonna give them your side, I'm gonna give you my side from a lender point of view. That operating agreement, it also tells us the ownership and who's doing what in the company, who's can sign the contracts, who can open up this bank account, who can actually do this loan. That's what's in there. So you don't need to take that lightly. That's what I'm saying. And we're talking a partnership because like you said, when you're going through that possibility of divorce, that can save you because it shows what we all agreed to. So you can just sit down because this is what you said and we're going to move on. Or it tells that it's not going to work anymore if nobody don't want to do it. Then you dissolve it or whatever the case may be. So that's what we see personally a little bit, but also from the lending side, if you don't have that operating agreement where they can go in there and see who's the owners, because they're going to check the owners. If you're 20% ownership of any business, they want to check everybody. So that's why that's important as well too, on my end. And on your end.
Well, on top of what you're talking about, I think you're talking about also the company having who has the authority within the company to make these transactions happen.
And that's a legal document, right? Some
companies, let's just talk about an LLC, for instance. Sometimes they're managed by members. Sometimes they're managed by managers. A manager doesn't really have to be a member of that LLC. It can be a third person or a company that's doing the management of that company. But that person or that individual, that entity is going to have outlined in the document what their powers are, what they can do without having to get a vote of the members.
Okay.
So generally what we do is we come through, and as we're coming into a transaction that involves funding and things like that, we're looking for resolutions that give the authority and the blessing to the transaction, that approve the individual, whoever it is, that's going to be signing the documents, that approves that,
Right.
and kind of outlines that process. So what we want to do is we want to have that documentation proper as well, because that's what the banks are going to be asking for. That's what your underwriter is going to be looking for.
Right.
Does this person have the authority to sign these documents, or do I need more than one person to sign these documents?
Exactly. At TDJ Equity Funding, we understand the challenges you face. Whether you're expanding your business, investing in real estate, or launching a startup, we've got your back. Our expert team of loan brokers is dedicated to helping you secure the funding you need, hassle-free. Imagine a future where your business thrives, where opportunities are endless and working capital has made a great difference in your business. TDJ Equity Funding can make it happen. Booking an appointment with us is easy as pie. Just visit our website at www.tdjequityllc.net and take the first step towards your financial success. Don't let your dreams gather dust on the shelf. Seize the opportunity today. Visit www.tdjequityllc.net and schedule your appointment with TDJ Equity Funding. Let's turn your dreams into dollars.
Welcome to Frameworks Consortium, your partner for sustainable business success. Frameworks Consortium is your strategic guide, providing you with clear, actionable roadmaps to achieve your business goals. Our team of seasoned strategists provides expert guidance, ensuring you make informed decisions with clarity and confidence. We develop customized solutions that align with your unique business objectives, fostering growth and resilience in an ever-changing business environment. Connect with us today and harness the power of strategic planning for your business.
That's why I tell you it's so important. An operating agreement, I know they have them online, and they do. You do not need to go and get one offline. You really need to get with.
Let me talk on this.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like the Maytag repairman, right? You can pay me now or you can pay me later. What I tell people is look, let's do things simply and inexpensively for you at the beginning. And it looks like it's really cheap. You go online and grab a company agreement or something like that. But you really have to be careful. I've had more than one occasion where we had to fix an awful lot of stuff, and it costs a lot of money. I mean, you think about it, this attorney's going to read through this thing, and then they got to talk to you and find out what it is you actually intended, what you actually wanted. They're going to have to know what's going on with this transaction to figure out what you really need. Then there may be a bunch of paperwork they've got to, draw up another operating agreement. There may have to be some resolutions and some other things, and that's just to fix that one small problem. So it's much better to come up beforehand and sit down and speak with an attorney. Find out if you're doing the right kind of thing first. Find out if I've got an individual I've just talking to who they've held themselves out as an S corp, and they're actually an LLC. S corp is a tax election that you make, and it doesn't affect the company at all. It doesn't change the status of the company. It merely changes how you get taxed.
Right.
But that S corp election, a lot of your CPAs will tell you, well, that's the thing to do. That's what you got to do. That can come back and bite you in the tail end when you go to sell.
That is sure can.
There's a deal about how you value the company and about how you value it for tax on that sale. So it's good to come and talk to somebody first, get an understanding about what's going on, and figure out, hey, is this the right vehicle for me?
And so let me ask you this, because again, we're all learning this. So as an attorney, is that where we should look at bringing an attorney in to help us with that piece? Even though you talked about the taxes and all that, we should come to you when it comes to that operating agreement based on what me and my partners want to do.
Yeah, there are a lot of CPAs out there who will file documents. And I'm not really comfortable with a CPA filing anything that has to do with incorporating an entity.
Yeah, and I agree.
They understand at least the bookkeeping, accounting, and sometimes the tax side. Not all accountants are created equal. Right. But it's good to come down and sit with me for an hour and let me talk to you, or let some other attorney sit down and talk to you and figure out what is really good for your business? What is it you want to do? What will save you the most money in the long run? And what makes sense? There's no sense if you're just doing a landscaping service and that's all you're doing is mowing lawns. There's no reason to have a corporation. Exactly. It's just extra tax, extra forms, extra filings, things you don't need to mess with, where you can do something maybe with a very simple LLC.
So what I'm seeing is that, which I think we all need to learn that, because we have to be real. You all know that a lot of stuff when it comes to business, it's so many myths out there. And it's a lot of truth and a lot of falsehood, but it's also a lot of stuff that doesn't pertain to you. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just not fitting for you, like what you just saying, based on that business. And I'm going to say this to add to what you're saying. When you don't have it set up like you're saying, you done went through the process, and then like you had that one that you had to do later. In our case, that's called time. And what happens is this: when you're looking at 3 months, 4 months for you to possibly get approval, which we can get approval, it's the background stuff that didn't work out, which is now they're dealing with your contract because they got them and they're like, whoa, this got to be corrected. That's time. And some of the lenders will only give you an offer that's good for maybe 2 weeks to 30 days.
And with the way the interest rates have been running, it's hard to tell what's going to happen next week, or even whether the banks are going to be able to lend. Right now in the commercial space, I know our regional banks are really getting pressed. So they're not making a lot of loans, and it's really impacting business. So if you can get everything in line and have all your ducks in a row, have a nice little package ready, take with you to you, then you're going to save time, you're going to save effort, and it's going to go a lot faster in general. Right. You're just going to get it all together. It's really important for me to emphasize, be careful if you try to download something from the internet or if you listen to a friend. Everybody's situation is different. And lawyers always say, their famous answer is, it depends. And it does. It depends on the facts. Whether you've got investors that are actually investors, whether you've got partners who are actually partners, whether you've got Mima, who is her favorite grandson, and she's going to make you a loan.
All that, the profile project, it all depends, and they're not the same.
And that's absolutely true. So take a little time. It's worth, the hour or two that you may have to pay for just to sit and talk and get some good ideas about what's going on. And my job, at least this is the way I see it, my job as an attorney is to educate you so that you have the best possible information to make business decisions that you can make. There may be some liability potential out there, some exposure, but if you're aware of it, you can choose whether to deal with it or to put it aside. If you don't have that information, you don't make the choice. The choice gets made for you.
That is true.
So let's be in control of ourselves.
That's true. Lack of knowledge doesn't mean it ain't gonna happen. Just because you didn't know about it, it still will happen. So that's understandable. So basically, what we're trying to emphasize with you guys today, like I said, this one is about partnerships, because the end of with us with the loans, once you bring in a person with a partnership, or you want to buy them, you want to buy into a partnership, or you want to buy them out of a partnership, that contract determines if you can or cannot do that. And that's what people don't understand. We've actually had a client that actually came to us that wanted to buy out one of their partners. And so happened they wanted to buy him out, but I don't know how it was done, but it was done that he had to buy him out 4 times the price. Now, how they got in there and they didn't see it till 4 years later, I have no idea.
What I will tell you is that people will pull these contracts down offline or get them from a friend or reuse somebody else's thing, and they'll miss a few changes, and those few changes will kill you. But really, before you get involved in that negotiation to buy that partnership or to sell, you should probably talk with your attorney and your accountant. And here's why. One, you want to know what this thing is actually worth. And there are several different ways to value a business, whether it be a multiple on gross earnings or a net revenue, or if it's an inventory itemization, and so forth. The other thing is you may not want to buy the company because you don't want to buy the liabilities. Maybe you just want to buy the assets.
That's right.
You can do an asset sale. These are the kind of things that can get planned out. And
with an attorney. Because this sounds a whole lot for us to do by ourselves. I'm just being what we look at in order for it to be right. You guys, your stuff look right. The ones that come in with the attorneys that have done just what you said, it is smoother, it's laid out.
Clean.
We close, it's clean.
And you know what you're going to spend up. You know to the penny almost, really, what you're going to be spending on this, rather than coming into a deal and having these surprise fees or surprise amounts that you've got to pay out. Everybody knows what it's like, to go in and do a closing on their house and then look at these extra charges and say, what are the? I had to bring money to the close. Wait a minute, the bank was taking care of that. So my goal is to make sure that you understand before this happens what's going to be expected of you, what your valuation is, what the costs are going to be. It's not always possible to get it down, to the penny, but that's my goal. Let's get that out there. So what what are you getting into?
Right.
Nobody wants to get into a bad thing. Due diligence is more than just doing the valuation. It's making sure that you've got all your records straight, that your accounting is done right, that your inventory is clear, that you don't have liens lying around out there. That's part of underwriting.
Right.
But if I can do that up front and maybe do a lien check, then we can find out if you've got a lien and we can get that thing paid off.
Exactly.
Not in the middle of the loan, but before you ever get there.
Exactly. Because it would mess you up, and you don't want to have that to happen by you not having your things together in the first place.
That's right.
Now we're going to actually, in our series, we're going to be talking about purchase and business. So that's going to be one of ours that's in this series that we'll talk about, where you can kind of lay that out, because I think, again, we know from people coming to us that they haven't looked at all of that. And I think a lot of it is that we running our business off our hip. We don't think, I can kind of get past some of this stuff with the CPA and some of this stuff. Guys, if you're trying to do any type of funding, if you're trying to do lending, I'm telling you need those guys. I didn't realize how important you guys were until we started seeing you showing up at the closing. Whether it's on a Zoom call or phone call, you're there. So even if you don't have an attorney, you're going to have to get an attorney, whether you're going to pay the lender to use theirs or you need to get your own or however it goes. But you're going to have to have an attorney.
When you pay the lender to use theirs, that attorney does not represent you.
No,
and
it
that's
does
important
not.
to
And they say that.
They'll say it, but they're going to be doing contracts, doing other things, and you're going to be signing on the dotted line. But that is not your attorney, and that attorney
that is not.
only has the bank's interest at heart, and that's what the attorney has to do. It's not that they're being mean.
Right. Exactly.
That's it. It's really good to know simple things like, if you're running your business bank account out of your personal checking account, that's going to create a problem when you get to underwriting.
It ain't gonna happen.
And it creates another problem just legally if you get sued, because they're going to be looking at your personal bank account and you're going to say,
you just intermingled them, which you shouldn't do.
Yeah,
right.
and it's really common with very small businesses. I see so many folks who are just out grinding along, making a living, and they're doing okay making a living. They've commingled all their funds. They have a mess in their receipts. They're invoicing it straight.
And there's nothing a loan lender we can do with that, because once you put that personal, you're great. That's something we see. That's why we're always excited about bringing you on, because I'll be honest, I've been in business for over 25 years, and I will tell you the truth. Personally, I didn't think you don't need an attorney until you're about to get sued. That's what I thought you should have an attorney. Well, I found out that is totally wrong. Being in business is called preparation. And when you prepare, your attorney needs to be on that list, so you can be prepared for whatever may come based on you just having the right contracts. And that's what I found out personally on my business as I evolved. I have attorneys that come in and do the certain contracts, and they are actually, what is it when you out there to go to court? My attorney said it's called where it can be legally, what's the word? It's a word that y'all use.
Go to court for.
Yeah, it got to be where you can legally fight it. In other words, because if I brought him a contract.
Oh, a lot of times they put arbitration clauses in contracts.
Yeah, I didn't have that. If you have
an arbitration clause in there, you'll never get to court.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I had one that I had put offline in the beginning, and so happened I turned around and went to him, and he said, "Yeah, this is not going. I can't go to court with this."
Yeah,
so I had to pay for it, but it was the best thing I ever paid for, because from that point on, I mean, it's a certain respect you get when people read the contracts and stuff, and they see, wow, you got an attorney, dude. They know
that you have taken yourself serious enough your business.
That's what the lenders look at. They do.
To go hire an attorney to get something that makes sense. And I do a lot of negotiations where I have a client and the other party maybe unrepresented. My goal is not to mess over the other party.
Right.
Because these folks want to do business together. And so really that's what I want. I want to get the business deal done so that they can have that relationship and they can go on.
Right.
And both of them make a lot of money. You know, the more money they make, the happier I am. They keep coming back, right?
Exactly.
So it's really important to have, we have elements in a contract that are necessary.
Okay.
So that's probably what that lawyer was telling you.
Right.
You've got to know who both the parties are. You've got to know exactly what the contract's about. You got to know how much it's for. You got to know when it has to be done.
Right.
So every contract is a promise in exchange for another promise. If you do this, I'll do that.
Right.
And if you don't have that clearly defined in your contract, then you're going to be in court trying to figure out, well, what was it we really meant?
See, and when the lenders ask for those agreements, they're looking for just that. They want to see, one, has it been put together by an attorney? Is it official? Does it have everything in it it needs to have? Because that tells them, especially, let's just say, you're trying to get $1 million from a lender. He needs to know you capable of $1 million.
So one of the things that I tell people is like, you know, it's not just that you get the contract with everything in it that needs to be there, but it's got to be put together in a way that the underwriter expects to see it.
Gotcha.
What are they comfortable with?
Okay.
If people are really comfortable with something, they don't look as closely. You know.
You're right. You are right.
Oh, yeah. It looks
agree.
like everything's in order. Everything's fine. So that little bit of time and effort you spent, that little bit of money you spent getting an attorney to draft it up, it's going to help out because everything's kind of, there's just kind of a way we do things, laying everything out.
Right. And it's definitely much easier than when I have clients that come in, and I will tell you, everyone that come in have not had an attorney, and we're like, you're going to get an attorney for this, or they're going to help you, whatever. It has been a lot longer. The process is longer, guys. So if you could just have an attorney to review your documents, like you said, pay that money to get it reviewed before you actually come in to us will be good. Now, understand, us being a loan broker, we will refer you, we will tell you need to get an attorney because we can't help you. But anyway, so basically, that's what I'm finding out that is important to have you guys on the team before you really, really need you. And it's not just to get sued, but it's just keeping your paperwork properly right. So, and it also works as well if you have investors that want to look into you. Those guys are smart too. They want to see your financials. They want to see the agreements. They want to see,
they want to see that everything's in order. They want to understand that you've got your accounting in order, that you've got your business processes in order. And the larger you are, they want to see policies and procedures. They want to look at the agreements that you have with your.
Exactly.
Let's pull this up. I'll throw this out there. Just last week, the Department of Labor changed the way it looks at independent contractors, and it changed it radically. So having a good attorney that you have a relationship with, and I sent a memo out to all of my clients. Here are the changes. Here are the things that have happened. Here's what you need to look for. And by the way, give me a ring, and we'll see if this is going to affect you. If you're building houses, if you're doing any kind of work where you have 1099 not employees but contractors, it is possible the Department of Labor comes back and says, no, we're reclassifying them as employees. That doesn't sound like a bad deal, but now you're on the hook for taxes, unemployment insurance, workers' comp, all of that stuff. And so that's why, having that relationship with an attorney where you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, Mickey, man, I got this problem. And you'd be amazed how many times that happens. I'd be driving down the road. I get somebody call me up and say, hey, I've got a contract with somebody that does X, Y, and Z is happening. And is this something we need to do something about now? And I'll tell them.
And that relationship is really important. I know my guys, and like my girls too, they go back and forth, my clients, with their attorneys and their CPAs. And I see that. They're like, let me call my attorney. And then they call me back and give me the answer. So I know that relationship is important.
It is.
So, and it's really when you start growing, and I think people don't think, not that you're trying to get $1 million, but even when you starting out, just to have that set up in the beginning will save you so much going forward with your business, because you all have a tendency to keep us cattle straight. I know that now. You straighten us out because the way we're going is not the best way for us. So an attorney can look at this is what you need to have and understand. They have to understand the underwriters. they think like attorneys. The closers, they're like attorneys.
They have some very specific things that they have to do. They have a checklist. Every closer has a checklist. And
that's exactly what I got a checklist. You're right.
And you go down the checklist and you're looking for each item and you want to be able to check it off. And if I give you a package where all of those items are right out there in front, then you can get to close.
Right, right.
If not, you've got to stop and you've got to look through things and try to figure out if this is, if this particular section of this contract meets that requirement or not. I don't want you to have to look at that.
Right.
I don't want you to have to make a call. I want to make it easy. The other thing is that a good attorney, somebody who's really invested in you and your business, is one who's going to educate you. They're going to know who you are as a person, know kind of what your risk profile is. They're going to understand your business. You know, like I see for contractors, you got to know the difference between a crow's foot and a bird's mouth. And if you don't, well, you probably need to go to somebody else.
Right.
Because otherwise you're spending all your time, you're going to pay them to learn.
Oh.
And why pay an attorney to learn something? That's ridiculous.
Get them what they specialize in. We brought you on because, like I said, a lot of people calling us real estate. You can help them with real estate.
Yeah.
You can help them with contracts. And so that's why we have you as our partnership, which definitely we want to let you all know that you can reach out to Mickey Fox on your own. You can pretty much Google and find him. But if not, you can reach out to us as well, because we definitely keep him there. If people need anything, we refer them to him. Because when it comes to real estate and business contracts and things of that nature, we needed to make sure there was attorneys that were available that could fit what you guys are looking for. Like what he's saying, you don't need to be paying nobody to learn. And because that's what they're going to charge you for billing wise. So that's why it's important to reach out to someone like Mickey that specializes in whatever you specialize in, I guess, whatever kind of field you're in, you want to kind of make sure they can relate. Like if you're in construction, you want a construction. If you're a doctor, I know you do doctors too, right?
I do doctors too.
Yeah, the attorney, you want to match that ability together, right?
You, like I said, you want somebody who kind of understands what your business is.
Okay.
You know, I mean, look, I don't know anything about bakeries. I can try, you know, I will definitely come in and try to help somebody out, but I'll have to learn a lot.
Right.
Right. But if it's a field that I work in a lot where I just kind of deal with a lot of this stuff, I'm not an expert, you know, I'm not board certified or anything like that. But I've done a lot of it, and I've seen a lot of real estate deals. I've seen a lot of membership interest purchases or
stuff like
or
that, right?
buybacks and things like that. And so that person's not just going to know kind of how to lay things out. They're going to know what to look for. And they might be able to tell you, hey, you need to fix this before you get sued.
Right, right. Exactly.
That's a big savings right there.
It is. It is. Because they don't see it like that. I know. I've had those conversations in closing and some of the attorneys, you know, when we have that talk with the client and us, and we just being real, like, how's this contract set up? And if it's not set up like it's needed, I'm like, it's not going to work for the lenders. But the thing that was kind of shocking, the attorneys already knew that. They like, your lender's not going to accept this.
And one of the things to keep in mind, too, is if your contract won't get past underwriting, you may be on a hook to pay that money, even though you can't get a loan. And so you want to have the proper clauses built into that contract to allow that escape. And
that is true.
You know, there's an awful lot there to try to keep up. And there are a lot of different ways to fund things. You can partially fund something. You can do a little bit of a note. You can do a little bit of a bank loan. You can do a little bit of a buyback. You can do an earn out. There's just all kinds of ways of structuring things. So even if you can't grab access to the full amount of capital that you need from a lender like you, there are ways to get it on the back end. So long as the lender, because the lender's going to want to stay primary. Right. As long as they stay primary, they ain't going to care. They get their money, they're going to be fine.
So as long as it's got to have you guys in there, because it really adds an add to it. Well, I tell you what, we really do appreciate you being here. But before we leave, I would really like to hear what type of advice or nugget you want to give our listeners for the ending of this show today. What would you like to send out to them, your last thing to them?
Don't be afraid to call. Like, I'm a regular person. I put my pants on like most people do, you know, half asleep in the dark, you know. But don't feel like your problem is something you can necessarily push off. We like to kick the can down the road. Talk to an attorney early on. I'll tell you straight, if it's something that I don't think you need to worry about, I'll tell you. I don't need the money that bad.
Right.
But if it's something that I think you need to plan for and you need to think about, I'll tell you straight. And whether you use my service or somebody else's, it doesn't matter to me. Well, it does matter, but whether you use my services or somebody else, really what I want is that you're protected, that you're taken care of, and that you get respect. And that's really what it's about, that you're going to be able to respect the people you're working with. Right. And I need to respect my clients, and they need to respect me. And if we have that, it's an awesome relationship.
Awesome. And it works really good. So again, I want to thank you for coming out again.
My pleasure.
And I want to say something to you guys a little bit on a personal tip dealing with an attorney. We love Mickey at our office. We love him. I advise you guys to give him a call to see, even if you're not even think you there, but if you're in business, going in business, you need to reach out to him. He's the type that you can set up an appointment, he can talk to you, and he's straightforward, about what you need to do and everything. And he's working really well with a lot of the clients we're sending this way. So definitely you all need to look at reaching out to him. And also to our listeners, if you like what you heard and would like to stay informed about getting money for your business, listen to TDJ Equity Funding Insiders podcast on all major podcast platforms. If you would like to be a part of the Funding Insiders community, where we give out documentation and information to the lending process and more, please sign up at www.tdjequityllc.net/podcast. Until next time, thank you and take care.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of TDJ Equity Funding Insiders Podcast. If you'd like to be a guest or get in touch with us, please visit our website at tdjequityllc.net/podcast or email us at podcast@tdjequityfundinginsiders.net. Until next time, take care.